Emotional constipation, a leadership epidemic. What you won't feel will find another way out, and usually at the worst time. Emotional capacity is your ability to notice, name, and regulate your emotional state, and most of us were never taught how, especially not at work. However, the reality is that our success and sustainability as leaders depends on our emotional capacity. It enables you to not be that guy, the one who flies off the handle during a meeting without even realizing it, the one who can't even notice when his assistant spends the day close to tears. Or even more common, if you lack emotional capacity, you become the leader who's, quote, not a great culture fit, the partner who's, quote, emotionally unavailable, and the parent who is there in body but not in spirit. Think of the leaders you've had in the past, the ones that unlocked something great in you that you didn't even know was there, the ones that poured into you and you left them a better person than when you arrived. Maybe it was a high school coach, a grandparent, or a boss early in your career. When you think of great leaders you've experienced, who comes to mind? Now tell me, were they emotionally regulated? Or did you never know which version of them was going to come through the door? Now, which do you want to be? The cost of disconnection. In our culture, we spend most of our day up in our heads. We're busy strategizing, figuring out the best way to word emails and texts, problem solving, trying to look at the big picture while putting out fires. Our brain heads are great at all that. However, our conscious brains only hold about 10% of the incoming data. The rest of that untapped information, oh, it came in, but our conscious minds can't access it because it's been sorted away deep in the part of our brain commonly referred to as the unconscious mind. It includes the limbic system and cerebral cortex. The other 90% of that incoming data is stored deep in our nervous systems, where language can't live, but emotion can. If we want to tap into way more of our own life experience, we need to learn how to use emotion to uncover the data that can increase both our success and sustainability. Some specific examples of that include, all right, listen, imagine you're in a high stakes conversation and your emotion can tell you when you need to check in with a client who's getting cold feet, but trying to hide it. Helpful, right? Or your emotion can tell you when you need to check in with your college kid who's struggling but doesn't want you to think they need your advice. Or what about when emotion can tell us what time boundary we really need in place, like yesterday, because burnout is around the corner otherwise? Do you see how emotion or feelings can provide data that leads to your success and sustainability? Imagine having access to that kind of information. And we have the information. We have just habitually shut down the way to access it, our emotions. Now, some call it intuition. Some say I can feel it in my gut. Sometimes it's simply, I had this idea in the shower this morning. So frame the connection link as intuition, gut instincts, inspiration, blessings from heaven. I don't care, but name the source of the data and recognize that it does not speak in words, but feelings or emotions. Because when you've suppressed or ignored emotion, then you have no connection link to that unconscious brain and all of its stored data. You've trained your conscious brain to override internal warning signals and nudges simply because it's in emotion language and not words. If you've ever ended up at a point in your life wondering, how the hell did I get here? Now you know the answer. You had no, or very little, emotional capacity. And what does that look like? Well, for some people, it's a feeling of hollowness or numbness. For others, it's profound confusion or the feeling like you're going round and round without clarity on how to break free. If it goes on long enough, depleted emotional capacity feels like the kind of deep exhaustion that lives in your bones that no amount of sleep at night can touch. The cost of emotional disconnection isn't just burnout, quite frankly. It is the erosion of your intuition, your self-trust, and your joy. Restoring emotional capacity means learning to feel again, on purpose, without shame. Why emotional capacity matters in burnout prevention. Burnout is not just about having too much on your to-do list, especially if you are a high achiever. It's almost never just that. When it comes to emotional capacity, burnout can be about how much you're holding in, denying, suppressing. Burnout is often a result of disconnection, specifically disconnection from others, which is often a symptom of being disconnected from ourselves. The path often looks like this: disconnection from self, parentheses, emotion, leads to disconnection from others, parentheses, isolation, leads to burnout. Now, if you've gotten real good at disconnecting from your emotions, you're not going to believe this next statement, but I'm going to make it anyway. Emotional suppression is energy intensive. It takes a ton of capacity to keep shutting that shit down, to keep justifying, rationalizing, logicifying everything your body dares you to just feel in response to all of that data your unconscious brain is receiving. And the price of depleted emotional capacity? We can start with the fact that people who ignore their emotional signals burn out faster and recover slower. That's just common sense. If you can't feel the warning signs, your runway to burnout is greased. And if you try to recover with some guru's to-do list rather than listening to your gut for what you really need, it's going to be a while before you're back up and running. Not to mention that if you have zero emotional capacity, you can't be the partner, the parent, the friend, the lover that you actually want to be. You have no space to take in the emotions of another person because you haven't processed your own. You are full up, even when you're feeling empty inside. We talk a lot about emotional intelligence these days, and not enough about emotional accessibility. If you can't feel it, you can't process it. If you can't process it, it stays stuck in your body. Welcome to emotional constipation. Restoring emotional capacity in the real way. Restoring emotional capacity takes more space than this little Substack article has, but let's give you a jumping off point. To rebuild your connection with your emotions and gain clear access to your intuition and all the data it holds, you need to learn how to recognize 1, what you're feeling, 2, where you're feeling it, and 3, what it might be trying to tell you. Step 1, identify the most accurate word. The first step necessitates bridging the mind and the body via language. Most of us don't even know the names of more than 6 emotions, but our human bodies experience a whole lot more than that. So it's time to increase your emotion vocabulary. The quick path to this is to find an emotion wheel that you like. I show you a picture of the one that I use in the article, but you can Google emotion wheel and find hundreds. Pick one that you like, keep it handy, and once a day or so, think of the strongest feeling you had that day and find the most accurate name for it that you can. That's it. It's so common, you can even find emotion wheel pillow covers that can be super helpful and make it a more cuddly experience. Once we have the language, we can speak our truth out loud, even if it's just to ourselves. And giving voice to you is a direct path to rebuilding emotional capacity. If you want something more in depth, I suggest checking out Brené Brown's book, Atlas of the Heart. It's like an owner's manual for human emotions, very useful. So, the sustainable action that you take for step 1 is once a day for 1 week, maybe 2, identify the strongest emotion you felt in the last 24 hours. That's it. Find the most accurate word for it. The goal is to get to the point where you can quickly identify really clearly and accurately your emotions, as well as easily understand kind of the nuance of them. All right, step 2, find it and feel it. Once the language feels more familiar and, dare I say it, more intuitive, it's time to move to the somatics. This means being able to identify where in your body you're feeling the emotion. All right, this feels woo-woo for sure, but it's critical if you want to get those hits of inspiration without having to slow way down in the middle of a high-stakes conversation and think, now, what is my intuition trying to tell me? Imagine when you can feel the twinge in your stomach and know that's your intuition telling you to keep asking questions before signing on the dotted line. Yeah. Or imagine you can feel that tension in your throat and you know it's your gut telling you that this person is trying to placate you, and find out why. Or when you know the fire in your chest is a clear indication that this is an opportunity worth pouncing on. That's when taking the time to do the woo-woo thing of feel it in your body becomes totally worth it. Is it tension or warmth or iciness or just stuckness? So after you found the word that represents the emotion clearly to you in step 1, it's time to figure out where that emotion likes to live in your body. Now, if you're real numb, like I was for a long time, this skill is not going to come easily or quickly. Be kind to your poor language-dependent brain and understand that we all suck at new things. You might suck at somatic identification for a bit, and that's okay. So your sustainable action to take for step 2, once you've got ready access to a big emotion vocabulary, ask yourself, where in my body am I feeling this? And what does it feel like? And then be kind when you suck at it at first. All right, step 3, last step, get curious. This last step comes pretty naturally. Just ask yourself why. Why this emotion and why now? What is it trying to tell me? I once had a client who got a headache every time they ignored a specific time boundary, but they didn't need more time management hacks. They needed to listen to the warning signal emotion their body was already sending before the headache. It was anger. The warning signal was anger. But that's hard to feel and way easier to ignore. Again, if you're new to this, asking your emotions what they're trying to tell you is going to feel weird AF at first. And yeah, that's why some people never evolve, never really achieve what they actually want, because they can never make it through this stage. It feels weird at first. Get over it. But more specifically, get over yourself. Get over your pride. Get over your ego, your embarrassment. Get over your shoulds and your, quote, professionalism, and even your appropriateness. You are never going to hear what your unconscious brain is trying to clue you into if all of that is standing in the way. So your sustainable action to take for step 3, once you can easily give it a name, know where it's at in your body and what it feels like, it's time to ask, why this emotion? Why now? What is it trying to tell me? And lastly, fam, anticipate and normalize the overwhelm when it comes. When you've lived a long time without emotional depth, jumping into the deep end can be a lot. That's normal. Ride the roller coaster. Don't jump off. Commit for just a week, maybe 2, because change that sticks starts slow. The cost of skipping the feeling part. If you read part 1 of Emotional Capacity, the last episode, you know that I spent most of my life, up until recently, Mormon, married, and very, very numb. Little did I know, you can't feel like yourself if you've spent your whole life avoiding your feelings. When we abandon our emotions to survive, we abandon ourselves. I was 37 before I figured out what my emotions had been trying to tell me, And the disruption to my life and my family's life was a lot. I learned the hard way that emotional capacity is the difference between responding to your life and performing for it. Emotional capacity is about radical honesty with yourself, not the fake, quote, safety of emotional control. If you want to live your life, not what's been prescribed to you, if you want to lead yourself and others sustainably, you have to stop skipping the feeling part. Your emotions aren't the problem. Your disconnection from them is. This is part 2 of 2, learning about emotional capacity. Next week, we're shifting from personal repair to collective impact, exploring how relational capacity shapes the systems we lead, the people we influence, and the culture we create. Share this with someone who's done performing leadership and ready to actually feel their way forward. Hit subscribe, and let's keep building a world where emotions are data, self-trust is currency, and burnout is no longer the price of admission. I hope you enjoyed this, fam. Be good to yourselves. I appreciate you.